What's up YouTube, it's RZ. I'm over here in the Gobuku studios, back for another review of Fire Force. This time we're going for episode 7. This one's called Investigation of the First Commences. And it definitely commences, but there's a lot of stuff to get to before we even begin to commence that investigation. So let's go through and see what this episode's all about. So the episode opens up over at Company 1's cathedral of all places, and we're introduced to technically four, but I would say 3 new characters and the name of one that we've already been introduced to. First is, the 3 people that are new are priests. They're lieutenants who are also priests of Fire Force Company 1, which is interesting to see that they have 3 lieutenants, and not only that they're 3, but they're also all priests. The first one is Rekha Hoshimiya, who's a 3rd generation. He has red hair, and we'll talk more about all these guys later. Secondly, we have a guy with blue hair and headphones. His name is Karim, I don't know how to actually pronounce it, Flam, and he's a 2nd generation, so he has no actual fire powers that he can conjure up. And third is yellow hair. His name is Huo Yan Lee. Sorry if I'm butchering these names. Please correct me in the comments if anything. And he's also a 3rd generation as well. And we finally get introduced to the captain of Company 1. His actual name, the guy with the gray hair that Shinra knew, his name is Leonard Burns. I'm probably just going to reference him as Burns, but that's how we were right away. We're introduced to these 3, and we also see that they know that the training between Fire Force Company 5 and 8 that Hibana was going to set up as pretty much saying it was a mock battle pretty much ends up being something that Fire Force Company 1 knows isn't real. So they already know it was a cover story, and that will probably be played into in later episodes, but it's interesting to know that from the start. So after that, we're introduced to the we go over to the party that pretty much is happening between Fire Force Company 5 and 8 that Iris pretty much was like, oh yeah, let's do this, so that way we can all get along together. And Fire Force Company 5 and 8 have some pretty cool chemistry. You see a lot of different things, like Maki with her little sputter things, and Arthur chopping them up, saying, you're not supposed to play with fire. Takeharu told me not to let you. You also see Shinra and Hibana with Toru from the last episode, the bubblegum guy. Hibana's treating him as gravel and kicking him in the shin or whatever as he's holding up an umbrella, and her and Shinra are, I guess, on a mock date. I don't really know what it is, but it's pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. And you also get the rip-off Charlie Angels people. You see their actual real forms, that when they're not concealed with sunglasses and all that, and they look pretty normal. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And there's the 5th Angels 3 and then the not 5th Angels 3. I was like, oh, well, that's kind of weird, but alrighty. And yeah, you see more Mamoru and all that stuff. It's a fun party moment, nice way to enter the episode off of the crazy battle we just had in the last episode, with all the suspense building and everything. Boom, we're knocked into a more carefree moment, something that you can just enjoy as a viewer, and I like that a lot. Then you pretty much have a scene with Akitaru and Hibana, and they're kind of just talking seriously. It's after the party late at night. Essentially, what Hibana is saying is she knows that her powers now, kind of what I was saying in the last episode, she knows her powers are pretty much the equivalent of something from the devil. So she's like, now that I know Shinra, I've seen how I can use these powers for good and not just to be a maniac, essentially. It's pretty cool. You see a bit more of the flashback stuff with her church and all that, and she vows to get revenge on whoever is the big reveal here, causing spontaneous human combustion on purpose. There's a group or some person, we don't know exactly who, that is the cause of it, that they're essentially trying to make people become human flames to kill everyone. But they did specify that it's not every human combustion case is because of this, as far as Hibana's research goes anyways. And it sort of solidifies that she's joining the group, which I like, because I think that's really cool. We see more chemistry between her and Fire Force Company 8 throughout the episode, and I like that a lot. So that scene was really cool. You see that the 2 are partners. I mean, they even high-five each other in a cool way. So it's I like that, the chemistry between Akitaru and Hibana a lot. You also get some fan service with the 3 chicks, Maki, Iris, and Hibana. It's pretty crazy. I thought that Hibana and Iris were sisters, and I'm like, oh, she's literally groping her. Pretty weird. But if you're into that stuff, go ahead, more for you. Other than that, though, we go onto the next plot point, which is Akitaru is sending out Shinra and Arthur as well as Maki to supervise them, to go on like a recruitment type thing as a cover-up. Essentially what can happen is a Fire Force company can send their new recruits to another Fire Force company for training, essentially just to go see more. It's kind of like a study abroad type thing, think of it like that, but for the Fire Force company. So you can go to another Fire Force company's place and actually get some experience and whatnot. Obviously, since Fire Force Company 8's job is to investigate the other companies, Akutara's like, yo, you guys are going to go in, you're our newest people, you're pretty powerful, so go in and figure this stuff out. Hibana, being the captain of Fire Force Company 5, also sends in someone, and she also has connections with other Fire Force companies, namely Fire Force Company 2, who sends in someone as well. So from Fire Force Company 5, we get Toru, the bubblegum guy, as I mentioned before. And from Fire Force Company 2, we get someone who I'll talk more about later, but essentially altogether it's 4 different people plus Maki as a supervisor coming into Fire Force Company 1, and that's what really kickstarts the episode into the main theme of investigating what Company 1 is up to. So they get there, and the blue-haired guy, Kareem, I guess I'll just call him Kareem because that just sounds more Japanese, I suppose. Actually, not really, but whatever. He essentially is a weird guy. One of his lines is something along the lines of, your crap is crap, bet you're crappy, and that makes your crap crappy. I don't remember if that's the exact words that it is in the dub at the very least, but I was like, okay, this guy is weird. And then he talks about Arthur's ass, and I'm like, what? That's so random. It's so weird. But yeah, he from that was like a weird first impressions of that guy to me. And then from there, we jump right into meeting with the captain. They go into the cathedral, and it seems like this Fire Force company is kind of like the opposite of 5. 5 has nothing to do with religion whatsoever. This one, outside of their cathedral, Fire Force Company 1, they have like the Soul of Obelisk thing, kind of like a statue or whatever. And there's like so much to do with religion. I mean, the 3 lieutenants themselves are priests. So it's a total, like the opposite of what 5 is all about, which I thought was pretty cool. And then we see the captain, who Shinra obviously wants some answers from. So what does he do? Immediately, he goes and is like, hey, I want to challenge you to a sparring match. If I win, then I want you to answer a question for me. So that's what kickstarts our next section of the anime, or of the episode, in essentially a sparring match between every member that is the new recruits and the 3 lieutenants and Burns himself, the captain of 1. Another small thing before that, we get some more stuff at Fire Force Company 8, which, like I said, Hibana shows more of her chemistry with the group. She clearly is looking out for Shinra and wants, the well-being of him to be intact, where Takeharu's like, why are you even here? And the weird thing about Takeharu, I think this is a thing because he wore something in the other episode as well, another hat. And in this episode, he wore a hat that it says organic on it. I don't know. Is that a thing for Takeharu? Like, he's the hat guy? I got no idea. If that comes into play later, though, I'm going to be laughing my ass off for sure. Because if he has some crazy hat thing with his bullet ricochet powers, I would be super amazed. Tamaki's obviously at Fire Force Company 1 from episode 4. And she essentially is pretty mad that Shinra's coming in and getting a sparring match with her boss, who she hasn't gotten a sparring match with yet. And you see her storming through. Meanwhile, over at the match itself, we have Rekha, the red-haired dude, who's pretty much trying to test the abilities of Fire Force Company 2's guy, whose name is... what is his name here? Takeru Noto. He's a tall dude, and he has some really big-ass hands. I don't know why his hands are so giant in the freaking uniform, but they are. He's a pretty shy guy. And he can conjure up missiles, when he gets flustered, kind of like how Shinra has the smile. This guy, Noto, so I'm going to get these names all messed up. This guy, Noto, he can conjure up these fire missiles and just make them more powerful and shoot them all because he's so flustered. Rekha is the perfect guy to fluster him because this guy is super enthusiastic. He has these stars in his eyes. He's ready to go, ready to pump people up. Not in a bad way. He's not trying to trash talk. He's just trying to get you all pumped up and ready to go and ready to fight. Company 2's rank is essentially the lowest, and even though he fires all these missiles, Rekha just simply dodges all of them and leaves them to Kareem to kind of take care of. Kareem's like, oh man, are you kidding me? You're making me do this? And this is where we see really cool powers. Kareem can essentially take heat, any type of heat. He can convert it. using something called thermoacoustic cooling, turns the energy of the heat into sound, and that sound can be turned into ice, or essentially he cools it down to a I guess very very sub cold temperature, sub freezing temperature, and freezes everything. So I was like, what the hell is happening right now? But that was cool. So we see our first first other element in the series, but that shows that Fire Force Company 2 really has no chance. And Kareem, I'm kind of interested to see more of him, but at the same time he's pretty annoying, so I don't know if I'm gonna feel any indifferent to that or whatnot. So Shinra obviously at this point suspects that the three priests, with being as powerful as they are, even though we've only seen two of them at this point, the three of them can potentially be the cause of the spontaneous human combustion the purposeful spontaneous human combustion that Hibana was talking about. So I was like, all right, I don't really believe that. I just think he's talking out of his ass at this point. And not obviously, but surprisingly, apparently Rekha can stop Tamaki's, I guess, fan service moments. You know how Shinra is apparently this is the thing with her. I was reading the comments on like other videos and whatnot. She apparently causes guys to be pervs. I don't understand what the hell it is, but apparently that's the thing. And Rekha, being as enthusiastic as he is, can just block that out. I was like, well then. Now we get to the highlight of the episode, which is Arthur and Shinra versus Burns. Now Burns, you can tell this guy, he has a lot of power because he doesn't even move for half of this fight, and he destroys both Arthur and Shinra. Granted, they're not fighting at the same time because Arthur wants to be chivalrous and, you know, blah blah blah. And he tries to take him out with Excalibur. The dude literally just catches Excalibur and makes it extinguish. I was like, what the hell? Because Arthur can cut through steel. Remember, this guy can cut through some crazy stuff. Yeah, so Burns, I guess it has something to do with his eye patch, because his eye patch lights on fire, and when that happens, he goes in, man. He goes in hard. So he just extinguishes Excalibur, pushes Arthur away like it's nothing. Shinra comes in, tries to do his super kick to the chest. Most it does to Burns is literally burns his clothes off. He just gets a little bit of a part of it's like ripped open pretty much, and like part of his jacket is singed. Other than that, he's like, you have a long way to go, because he asked Shinra, why did you join the Fire Force? And Shinra just said, I want to be a hero, you know, the blah 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 hero stuff. And that's pretty much what happens. Shinra gets knocked on his ass, and he has to just continue to train to even be anything against Burns. Now Burns really, it seems like he's not trying at all. So I'm wondering, is he going to be like super OP, or is he going to be a guy that's like, oh, he looks powerful, but there's someone that's 20 times more powerful that's the main villain? I don't know. We'll see. And then we realize that Kareem is going to be training Shinra and Arthur, and he essentially is like, he says something about pace. You're going to be outpaced, or are you going to be outpaced? But you guys had a good pace during this fight, blah, blah, blah. I don't even understand it. I just know that this guy is kind of annoying, but he said he's going to be the one training Arthur and Shinra. So we'll see more of that in probably the next episode. And after that, the episode ends. It just says to be continued. So I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks. I wanted to see more about what's going to go on, but we'll see next week exactly what's going to happen. But that's the gist of the entire episode right there. So let me talk about some takeaways with the episode. The introduction of these guys is pretty cool. And essentially, we get to see new characters while keeping the old ones fresh. It's not like they just tossed the old ones aside. You could have just not even shown Tamaki in this episode at all. But they chose to bring her back and show her some emotion from her. They chose to give more fleshing out to Hibana, even though like it's the episode after her big battle, you know. I like that. Even Takeharu and Iris and them get a little bit of screen time here and there. So that's what I like in my shows. You know, if you're bringing in a lot of new characters, a big cast, don't sacrifice the older cast. You got to make sure that everyone can intermingle with one another. And I think Fire Force so far has been doing a great job with that. We'll see if they can keep it up for future episodes. Honestly, at first I was a bit worried about Hibana joining the team, but she seems very, very like she's into it, like she really wants to help out. You know what it reminds me of? If any of you watch Jackie Chan Adventures, it reminds me of Toru. I know it's a really weird comparison to make, but the big dude who joins the team after fighting against Jackie in them, and he became one of my favorite characters in that show. I'm hoping Hibana can do the same here. I'm hoping she can join up and we can see her powers being used in the future, that would be really cool to see. So I really like that. That was a really good positive part of the episode for me. Currently, I'm pretty indifferent to the priests. Like Rekha, I think he's pretty cool. We don't know much about the third guy, Huo Yan Li. We just know that he's pretty stoic, for the most part, from what I can see. And then obviously you have Karim. I still don't know how to pronounce that name. He's kind of like, he's annoying, but that stupid way that he talks. But at the same time, he's pretty cool because he can literally freeze fire. Like what? That's like the opposite element. So I was like, all right. He at least intrigues me. So out of the three, I think overall they may grow on me in the future. But for the first introductory episode, I'm like, they're pretty cool. But I got to see more of them to see, whether or not I'm going to like them a lot. Or maybe they're intended to be hated. I don't know. We will have to see in the future. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Fire Force Episode 7, Investigation of the First Commences. Next week is called Infernal Insects, so I'm wondering what that even means. Maybe it's like someone that's really big on top is looking down on people. Potentially Hibana? I don't know. We'll see. I have no idea what's going to go on with that. But that's been my thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Coming back next week with another one, so be sure to check in and you'll see more Fire Force from me in the future. And for now, that's about it. This has been RZ. I'm in the Gobuku Studios, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. So for now, peace out.